Before going abroad to get married, my father left a house for me and my elder sister respectively. My sister was quick-eyed and quick-handed and chose the big villa in the suburbs. I was forced to choose the old house in the city center that was 70 or 80 years old. Later, my sister took a fancy to the richest man in the Beijing circle who lived in the same villa area. After several pursuits, she finally got him. But after marriage, she found out that the richest man was a workaholic. He was either working overtime or on a business trip all day long, running around the country. My sister couldn't bear being left alone in the empty house, so she directly set fire to the richest man's house and finally spent the rest of her life in prison. However, after the demolition of my house, I got tens of millions of yuan. I used this money to start a business successfully and got together with the youngest son of my business partner. Our wedding was luxurious and grand. My husband was extremely considerate and always by my side. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when we were choosing houses. My sister chose the old house in the urban area without hesitation. It's your turn to be left alone in the empty house this time. I couldn't help laughing. Wasn't it nice to lie in the big villa and count money? Do you have to marry that cheating and controlling man? I'm going abroad to get married soon and will never come back again, my father said, hugging his new wife who was about my age. There's a big villa in the suburbs and an old house in the city center. You can choose for yourselves. Consider it as my compensation for you two sisters. I stared dumbfounded at the familiar scene in front of me. I was reborn. And when I saw my sister pouncing on the real estate certificate of the old house in the urban area, I knew that she was also reborn. I'll take this small one. Leave the big one to my sister. It can be regarded as a little thought from me as the elder sister. After saying that, she secretly glanced at me, and her eyes were full of greed. I silently put the real estate certificate of the big villa into my arms. In the previous life, after she moved into the villa area, she completely cut off all ties with me. She said that from then on she had entered the rich circle and was from a different world from me. I didn't deserve to have any contact with her anymore. Later, she took a fancy to the richest man in the Beijing circle. She shamelessly seduced him and finally married him. Unexpectedly, the richest man was a workaholic. He just threw some pocket money to her every month and then got busy with work, leaving her alone in the empty house. She pestered the richest man for several months. Finally, the richest man proposed divorce. My sister became furious and set fire to the house and was locked up in prison to spend the rest of her life. Sister, this time, I won't be as stupid as I was in the previous life. After my father left, my sister immediately put on airs. It's your turn to be left alone in the empty house. Wait until I marry the youngest son of the real estate tycoon. Just wait and envy me. Sister, I suggest you'd better rely on yourself, I said softly. Betting her life on a man, she would never have a good life no matter how many times she was reborn. My sister angrily pointed at my nose and said, "You just can't stand to see me doing well. Get out." I slowly got up and left. Since that's the case, then I'll let go of the urge to help others and respect their fates. Not long after I moved to the villa, I heard that my sister was inquiring about the Ethan Group everywhere. In the previous life, because I started a business successfully, I had a cooperation with the Ethan Group. Then I was noticed by the chairman and introduced to his youngest son. It seemed that my sister had already started making plans in advance. She first went to apply for a job at the Ethan Group but failed. Then she went to the hotel where the Ethan family often attended dinners but was stopped outside and not allowed to enter. Now she was at a loss. A phone call came. "Elena, how did you meet Marcus? You're quite something. You'd better tell me their contact information, or I'll never let you off." I rolled my eyes at the air. "Why, can't you live without relying on a man? Stop your nonsense." Fine, I'll give it to you." After saying that, I sent Ethan's phone number to my sister and reminded her that Ethan would go fishing and play games with his buddies every day and probably wouldn't have time to look at his phone until after midnight. My sister didn't listen to me and hung up the phone in a hurry. Around midnight, my sister sent me a WeChat message. It was a screenshot of Ethan adding her as a WeChat friend. She said to me with a victorious look, "Sorry, this time, I'm going to get ahead of you. You only deserve to be left alone in the empty house, to be a widow. Oh, sometimes, I really pity you." I was literally speechless. I replied, "Wish you happiness," and then deleted the message directly. I think she must be cursing me for being blinded by jealousy at the moment. Actually, she doesn't know that the so-called God Ethan in her mind is not a good person at all. In the previous life, I was deceived by the false appearance created by their family. After marrying into the Ethan family, I truly knew what it meant to be worse than death. Marcus also acted like a chairman at home. Actually, he looked down on me from the bottom of his heart. Ethan was even more of a playboy, running around with a bunch of buddies every day and never coming home. And the reason why Marcus took a fancy to me was simple. I had no one in my natal family to support me. Even if I was wronged, I could only swallow it. Moreover, Ethan had a well-known preference in the circle, that is, he was not interested in women at all. Since he couldn't find a suitable partner within the circle, in order to maintain their reputation and leave an heir for their youngest son, their whole family joined forces to deceive me into marriage, and I was the big sucker. They were extremely considerate to me in front of outsiders, but actually, back at home, no one really treated me as a person. In order to make me stay at home as a full-time housewife, they acquired my company and didn't allow me to work. After everything I had was gone, Ethan started to lay his hands on me. In the big villa of the Ethan family, I was no match for the fists of their whole family.
11，那一定很贵吧？思远，没有必要的，不能跟你在一起就已经很开心了。这有什么？以后我给你买几个别墅，让你换着住。
Who would have thought that there would be someone who was eager to be a human punching bag for such a man and such a family? It's really asking for trouble. However, although I now have the big villa, I can't just sit around and eat away at my fortune. So the next day, I went to the urban area intending to sell the house. Isn't it more reassuring to have money and capabilities in hand? It was a long way from the suburbs to the urban area. I didn't even have a bicycle, so I could only find the nearby bus stop and take the bus there. The latest bus was long overdue, and it gradually started to drizzle. I stood under the bus stop sign, holding my bag over my head to keep off the rain. At this moment, a Porsche stopped in front of me. "Let's go. I'll give you a ride." I was startled. In the hazy rain, it took me quite a while to figure out who he was. "Don't be afraid. I'm not a bad guy. The rain is getting heavier. I'll give you a lift. I live in the house next to yours." I said "oh," and quickly got into the car. Having lived for more than 20 years, it was the first time I had ridden in such a luxurious car. As someone who had never seen much of the world, I was extremely nervous. In the driver's seat, Henry glanced at me and then casually handed me a dry towel. He didn't say a word, but I was extremely restrained. This was the man my sister liked in the previous life. I quietly turned my face to look at him. I had to admit that he was really good looking. His face was chiseled, and his slender fingers were holding the steering wheel, exuding an indescribable sexual tension. Moreover, I had never seen a man with such long eyelashes before. If these peach blossom eyes were on a girl's face, how beautiful they would be. Henry turned the steering wheel and turned right. "We'll be there soon." "Oh, why have you been staring at me?" I blushed and immediately turned my head to look out of the window. No, I wasn't. Henry's car soon stopped in front of a real estate agency. Then he got out of the car with me and very considerately tilted the umbrella a little towards me. At this moment, I really couldn't associate him with the unfeeling workaholic that my sister described. "Are you selling the house right after moving in? Aren't you happy living in the villa?" I shook my head. "I want to start a business, but I don't have enough capital." "Hey? You're also selling your house?" Henry shook his head. "Well, it's a long story. If I lose money this time, my parents will ask me to go home, get married, and take over the family business. I don't want to do that." I stood there in a daze, not wanting to say anything. The richest man in the Beijing circle really lives up to his reputation. Even his Versailles remarks are so fresh and refined. I wanted to ask if your parents were still in need of a daughter, one who was willing to inherit the family business. After registering the information at the real estate agency, the rain outside gradually subsided. As soon as I walked out, I bumped into my sister. "Elena? What are you doing here?" She glanced at the real estate agency behind me. "Don't tell me you've already squandered all your money and now you've reached the point of having to sell your house?" Seeing that I didn't say anything, my sister chuckled and said, "Let me tell you, I've already met Ethan. He's very interested in me. Guess what? He said that in 2 days, he'll take me as his female companion to attend a cocktail party 2 days later. The dress has already been picked out. How about it? Are you envious? Seeing my sister's smug and showy look, I really couldn't bear to shatter her romantic dream. I really wanted to tell her that everyone in the circle knew that Ethan wasn't interested in women. However, to avoid arousing suspicion, he would always bring a female companion to every event. He might be taking her just because she was cheap. Just as I was saying this, Henry drove over and waved at me. Who is that? Is it Henry? I nodded and turned to walk towards the Porsche. Elena, stop right there. My sister grabbed me from behind. You've already seduced Henry so quickly? Can't you live without a man? I turned around and burst out laughing. Yes, we sisters are really alike in this regard. Oh, by the way, he also said that in 2 days he'll take me to a cocktail party. I wonder if it's the same one? Looking forward to seeing you there, my dear sister. After saying that, I turned around and got into the car. My sister was still yelling and cursing behind me, but I was too lazy to argue with her. After a while, Henry beside me spoke. So you really want to be my female companion? No. I waved my hands repeatedly. That's not what I meant, then I'll reluctantly take you there. Henry said. Coincidentally, I also need a female companion. My house was quickly bought by someone. 2 days later, there was more than 30 million yuan in my bank card. I packed up the few things I had and called Henry to help me move. Henry was too busy. By the time he was free, it was already early morning, so he drove his luxury car in a wobbly manner and sent me to an apartment not far away. Then he yawned and handed me a dress. Remember to wear this tomorrow. Don't embarrass me. I was at a loss. Aren't you going to start a business? There will be many successful people at tomorrow's cocktail party. I'll introduce them to you then. I slowly took the gift box. Before I could say thank you, Henry drove away quickly. The next day, I originally wanted to follow Henry in, but to my surprise, he generously asked me to hold his arm. My face flushed, and I felt uncomfortable instead. From a distance, I saw my sister and Ethan walking towards us intimately. Our eyes met. After a while, my sister suddenly let go of Ethan's hand and rushed towards me. Elena, are you that desperate? I was completely bewildered. How on earth did you seduce Henry? Tell me, isn't he always cold and aloof? Doesn't he have much time? Why would he be willing to bring you to such an important occasion? You vixen, slut. Our eyes met. After a while, my sister suddenly let go of Ethan's hand and rushed towards me. The slap echoed through the hall, and all the guests stopped what they were doing and turned their eyes towards us. Have you lost your mind, Miss Sophia? I said softly, if you can really make Ethan marry you willingly, I'll truly admire you. My sister's face was terrifyingly dark. At this moment, Henry also walked over. I don't know if he had taken the wrong medicine or what, but he actually slowly took my hand in front of so many people. Miss Sophia, Elena has never seduced me. It's me who is still in the process of pursuing her. Then he looked at me. How about it? Does your hand hurt? I shook my head repeatedly. No, it doesn't hurt. Everyone, don't just stand there. Let's continue. Henry waved his hand. I looked up and saw my sister glaring at me through gritted teeth. She looked as if she wanted to swallow me whole. I really should thank Henry. He really saved my face. I heard that Ethan likes billiards. Does anyone want to challenge him? I don't know who shouted that. Ethan was slowly taking off his coat and was already rubbing his hands together smugly. In my previous life, it was after playing billiards with Ethan that he praised me highly and started to pursue me. At that time, I thought he really appreciated me. Later, I found out that Ethan only did things that were beneficial to himself and the company. Only when I had the same strengths as him could I be presentable to him. President Henry, do you want to have a try? Ethan asked. Henry opened his mouth, ready to decline. But how could I let Henry do something that would make him lose face? So I gently pinched his arm. I'll do it. I'll play a game with you on behalf of President Henry. Henry turned his head. You're still wearing a dress. Didn't you also put a tracksuit in the car? Lend it to me to wear. Henry's clothes were a bit big on me, and I looked loose and baggy in them. But it still didn't affect me catching Ethan off guard with my first few powerful opening shots. After all, I had played against Ethan in my previous life and I knew where his weaknesses were. After the first game, Ethan was already looking dejected. He had originally wanted to make Henry look bad, but instead, he himself became the laughingstock. I tied all my hair up into a bun at the back of my head and was getting more and more excited as I played. After a few games, Ethan threw down his cue without any gentlemanly manners. There was a hint of admiration in Henry's gaze. I secretly smiled and handed the cue to Henry. "Do you want me to teach you?" "Sure," Henry said. On the other side, my sister chased after the furious Ethan and left. Our area regained its previous liveliness. Because I had shown myself in front of all the big shots, everyone came over to clink glasses with me and asked me for my business cards. I should blame Henry for this. How was I supposed to know that I needed to prepare my own business cards for a cocktail party? Henry laughed. "Elena, my future girlfriend, a master of financial investment, is currently preparing to start her own company. Looking forward to more cooperation in the future." I lowered my head, feeling my face flush red. Henry gently patted my back and whispered in my ear, "Straighten up and hold your head high. These people will all be your connections in the future. Add more WeChat contacts, remember more phone numbers, quickly." I nodded repeatedly. I have to say that it's really different with Henry's help compared to figuring things out on my own. He could quickly tell who the real connections were and could also quickly identify the real potential customers and appropriately build closer relationships. These were all things that I couldn't do on my own. When the cocktail party ended, I sat in the car and let out a long sigh of relief. Is this considered socializing? It's so tiring. It's supposed to be tiring. In the business world, there are no real friends, and no one can really take it easy. Henry handed me a bottle of water. "So, do you still want to start a business?" I took the water with a smile and took a sip. "Of course, hey? How did you know that I study finance? Did you investigate me?" Henry started the car. "It's a secret." I silently cursed him in my heart for being mysterious for no reason. With Henry's help and the more than 30 million yuan of capital, my investment company was quickly established. Just like in my previous life, I rented an office in an office building and there were only a few team members. However, my goals were different from those in my previous life. With the connections that Henry had helped me to build, my company progressed much faster than in my previous life. I not only helped clients with their investments but also invested on my own. After making my first pot of gold, I soon took out a huge loan and bought a piece of land developed by the Ethan Group. Everyone in the capital said that Elena was a dark horse that had emerged out of nowhere. Then I used advertising and public opinion effects to boost the stock price and property price of the Ethan Group. When it was time to sell the land, I made a net profit of 300 million yuan. From 30 million to 300 million. What does President Elena plan to do next? Henry sat in my small apartment, opened a bottle of red wine, and raised his glass to celebrate with me. I didn't answer him directly but took a sip of the red wine and said, "Naturally, to do what you also want to do." Henry said, "During this time, the Ethan Group has been riding on your popularity, and its stock price has been rising steadily. They're very proud." I nodded. "Yes, the stock price has risen, and the housing price has risen. Too bad they won't be able to be proud for much longer. By the way, do you think I should attend my sister's wedding?" Henry leaned closer to me and clinked glasses with me. "Naturally, you should go." During this period of time, I was busy starting my business, and my sister wasn't idle either. The old house in the city center was demolished, and she received a compensation of 30 million yuan. The moment she got the money, she used it all to buy stocks of the Ethan Group. This purchase led to another crazy rise in the stock price of the Ethan Group. And the fact that my sister invested a huge amount of money also became a hot topic on the internet. In the video, she was talking eloquently like a wealthy lady. I believe the Ethan Group will get better and better, and I also believe that our investment will eventually pay off. I closed the video and closed my eyes. In the video, despite my sister's best efforts to conceal it, she couldn't hide her gradually growing belly. She was pregnant. Needless to say, the child was Ethan's. Not long after that, I received a call from my sister. I'm getting married soon. She got straight to the point. Do you want to come to my wedding? I didn't say anything. Ethan really lives up to being the man you once loved. He's really generous when he spends. Think about the previous life. Henry didn't even have time to hold a wedding for me. Yes, in the previous life, Henry married you just because of the pressure of public opinion. After living two lives, your methods are quite similar. I chuckled. Congratulations. In this life, you've finally found the right person with your methods. In the previous life, paparazzi took pictures of Henry being sent home by my sister after getting drunk under his villa and then publicized it widely. My sister also came forward to clarify with tears streaming down her face. Later, Henry's parents were so angry that they forced Henry to marry my sister. However, as far as I know, after they got married, Henry wasn't bad to my sister. After all, he gave her tens of millions of pocket money every month, and she didn't have to work. She could just lie at home and be a wealthy lady. I really don't know what she was dissatisfied with that she even set fire to the house. Oh well, fortunately, in this life, Henry is mine. Under the arrangement of the Ethan family, my sister's wedding was extremely luxurious. She was wearing a crystal crown on her head and a heavy-duty floor-length wedding dress with a long train. I heard that the price of that wedding dress was at least 1,000,000 yuan. There were dozens of bridesmaids and groomsmen, which really gave my sister enough face. However, when it came to the part where the bride and groom kissed, Ethan was obviously a bit uncomfortable. He first took a glance at the audience in the auditorium and then gave my sister a perfunctory kiss and quickly pushed her away. That was probably a kind of physiological disgust that couldn't be faked. But my sister was still enjoying it and didn't notice anything. Let's wish this newlywed couple a loving and long life together. Before the wedding host could finish his words, suddenly there was an uproar in the audience. The big screen playing their wedding video changed. The Ethan and my sister on it became Ethan and another person. And it was a man. Oh my God, he really is. I told you so. It turns out it was really a fraudulent marriage. The bride is so pitiful. I wonder if they've got the marriage certificate. The guests in the audience were talking animatedly, and my sister on the stage was dumbfounded. The fact that Ethan didn't like women had already been widely known in the circle. It was just that there was still a lack of explosive evidence. In the previous life, I was the one who married him. After being married for a few years, I naturally knew who his regular romantic partners were. On the big screen, the people who were intimate with him changed one after another, but there were no women. My sister's face turned pale. You. Suddenly, she took off her veil and quickly ran outside the banquet building. But the heels of her high heels were too high and thin, and the wedding dress was heavy. She fell heavily to the ground after running just a few steps. Then she was considerately helped up and taken away by the bodyguards of the Ethan family. Such a grand wedding suddenly turned into a huge farce. In the auditorium, I put down my goblet and quietly left in the midst of the chaos. An hour later, the hot search exploded. Originally, the official Weibo of the Ethan group was still live-streaming the wedding scene of the young master. Suddenly, it became like this. The live stream couldn't be turned off in time, and all those videos were broadcast. The hot search entry "Ethan's fraudulent marriage" was ranked first and wouldn't go down for a long time. The Ethan group tried many ways to remove the hot search, but just a few minutes after it was removed, it was pushed up by netizens again. Goodness, it was really lively. However, I was also one of these netizens. I registered a small account, bought some online water army, and made Ethan famous enough. At the same time, under the pressure of public opinion, the crazily rising stock price of the Ethan group suddenly stopped. Then, it began to fall crazily. The Ethan group was in chaos. I heard that they had already hired the best public relations team. Henry and I prepared some beer and bought a lot of crayfish. He peeled them, and I ate them. Elena, you're more capable than I imagined. I really didn't misjudge you. Henry was full of praise for me. However, I stopped putting the crayfish into my mouth and slowly looked up at him. When I was young, my mother passed away early, and my father was irresponsible. He was out drinking and having fun all day long, not caring about the lives of my sister and me at all. At that time, I thought that only my sister and I depended on each other, and I obeyed her every word. I protected her from so many big and small things that happened in school. I took the blame for her and got beaten for her, but she went around telling people, "Look, that's my sister. She's so servile. She'll do whatever I ask her to do." Little sycophant. From then on, I started to draw a clear line from my sister, but it only got me a beating from my sister. I didn't know what I had done wrong, but I never showed my true feelings again. I began to shut myself off, not communicating with my classmates and burying myself in my studies. As a result, although I had always been among the top 10 in my grade in terms of academic performance, I didn't have the courage to apply for a better university under the humiliation of my sister. And when it came to choosing the house back then, I didn't compete with my sister at all. Even later when I started my business, with the first pot of gold in hand, I didn't dare to really go all out for fear that if something went wrong, everything I had would be gone. But in this life, I suddenly realized that I could actually do much better. Henry's affirmation was like injecting fresh blood into my body, making me re-recognize and find myself again and again. I put down the crayfish in my hand and asked him, "Am I really that great? Why did you have faith in me from the very beginning?" Before Henry could say anything, I interrupted him again. "Actually, you're also reborn, right?" Henry was stunned. You too. Coincidentally, so am I." I chuckled. My sister had said that Henry was frigid and a workaholic, and that marrying him would mean being left alone in an empty house. She also said that Henry went out for socializing every day and was definitely up to no good. So my sister was constantly trying to catch him in the act, like a private detective, which made Henry so angry that he directly asked for a divorce. But in my eyes, he wasn't like that. He was like a gentle big brother next door. Although he was busy, he wasn't as cold as ice. Moreover, in this life, we were on the same wavelength. I found that most of his life was occupied by work, and there were no other women around him. Even his secretary was a man. We supported each other in our careers and were almost together every day. It's funny to say that at the beginning, I didn't intend to fall in love with Henry at all. But after getting along for a long time, it was hard not to be attracted to him. When did I notice that something was off about him? When he first drove me to the city to sell the house, it seemed that Henry was deliberately getting closer to me. Later, at the cocktail party, he again embarrassed my sister in public for my sake. "Henry, just admit it. At the beginning, you got close to me just to annoy my sister, right?" I peeked at him and asked tentatively. As if I had exposed his thoughts, Henry blushed. "At first, it was like that. I'm sorry, Elena," Henry said softly. "I knew about you in the previous life. Although your team was not big, I had heard of it. I knew what you were best at and that you would be a sharp weapon for me to defeat my enemies. But when I said I liked you, I was serious." Henry's eyes looking at me were full of sincerity. "The longer I get along with you, the more I can discover your uniqueness. You clearly have strong capabilities, but it seems that you've been hiding your edge all the time. You could clearly rely on me, but you're running around everywhere to talk to clients on your own. Were you and your sister born to the same mother? There can be so many differences." I slowly walked over and leaned on Henry's shoulder. "I know that in the previous life, my sister set fire to your house, and you naturally wouldn't let it go." Henry laughed at himself. "After marrying Sophia, I thought I hadn't treated her badly, but she? Do you know how big the fire she set was? My father, my mother, they all died in the fire. I was also left with a permanent disability. Our whole family was almost wiped out. The company fell into other people's hands. All the hard work of my parents' lives was destroyed. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm not a saint. I also wanted revenge." I didn't say anything but just quietly leaned on him. I knew that at the beginning I was just a pawn in his revenge plan, but I didn't mind that he fell in love with this pawn during his revenge. Suddenly my phone rang inappropriately, breaking the peace between Henry and me. It was my sister. "Elena, you deliberately made me marry him, didn't you? You liar. Bastard. Aren't you afraid of being punished?" I cleared my throat and said, "Did I force you to marry him by holding your head down? There should be a limit to your nonsense, right? You." After a while my sister's tone softened. "Elena, my dear sister, I beg you to come and save me. I'm being held captive by them. They said that if I don't clarify at the press conference that all this was just my prank, they'll kick me out after I give birth. Elena, for the sake of my being about to give birth, please save me, okay? It's very simple, Elena. As long as you admit at the press conference that all this was a commercial conspiracy planned by you yourself, an improper means of competition, won't everything be okay? She made it sound so easy. I was to take all the blame so that she could continue to be her fake rich lady. I gently closed my eyes and then said, okay. Before the press conference started, I informed a large number of self-media bloggers to come. After all, they couldn't miss such a good show. After the Ethan family finished their act, the camera now shifted to me. The highlight was coming. I greeted the media and then opened the computer at hand. Before that, please follow me to look at a set of materials first. As soon as the words fell, on the big screen behind me appeared what I had rushed to finish overnight. That was all the criminal evidence of the Ethan Group in recent years, including their own actions of jacking up housing prices in the background, using unqualified materials when building buildings, taking kickbacks, embezzling public funds, and so on. Ethan was dumbfounded. He sprang to his feet with a jerk and grabbed my neck with one hand. Why are you messing with me? Why are you messing with me? I have no feud with you, you bitch. When I was choked and couldn't breathe, Henry rushed up quickly, pulled Ethan away, and then punched him to the ground. Ethan, covering his swollen face, was shouting and yelling at Henry and me. And Henry fought with Ethan because of me, which made my sister instantly lose her temper. She ran forward a couple of steps, called out Henry's name, and then fell to the ground, unconscious. Someone called the emergency number and sent her to the hospital, and I was escorted away from the scene by Henry. After that, it had nothing to do with me. I had already handed over all the original materials of another set of information to the Procuratorate. Before the Ethan family could flee abroad, the Procuratorate quickly intervened in the investigation and sealed up the Ethan family's villa. The whole Ethan family was under control. My sister, who gave birth prematurely, was also among those being controlled. It was said that she had been in labor for a whole day and night and finally had to have an emergency cesarean section to give birth to a small and thin baby boy. The baby was sent to the incubator right after birth, and my sister didn't even have time to take a good look at him. When I saw my sister again, she had gradually recovered and could sit up with the help of a nurse. Her face was sallow, and she asked me anxiously, "How is it? How is Ethan?" I calmly peeled an apple for my sister and said, "He's okay. It's just that he'll probably be in prison for a very long time." "You bastard!" My sister shouted and knocked the apple one handed her to the ground. "You promised to take the blame yourself. You lied to me. Are you dreaming, you fool?" I stood up abruptly. "What on earth is in your head, sister? Weren't you the one who couldn't stand to see me doing well and wanted to steal my life? Well, I gave it to you. Why are you blaming me now?" "Sister, I've been taking the blame for you since I was a kid. How come even after living two lives, I still have to take the blame for you? Besides, in the previous life, I was almost killed by Ethan. How could I possibly let him off easy this time?" Sweat began to break out on my sister's forehead. Her lips were trembling non-stop, and it seemed that she mustered up a great deal of strength to raise her hand and point at me with her finger. "Elena, why do you get to live a better life than me? Why do all the good things go to you?" "Not really." I chuckled and looked at her mockingly. "In the previous life, the Henry you pursued was like a treasure of a man. You really don't know how good he is. It's just that you were never satisfied and didn't cherish him." When I left the hospital, I said thank you to my sister. "Thank you for stealing Ethan from me, thank you for giving Henry to me, and thank you for giving myself back to me." My sister was so angry that she rolled her eyes. The review of the Ethan Group by the Procuratorate lasted for a full 3 months. During these 3 months, the huge illegal industrial chain of the Ethan Group was exposed, and they were completely doomed. The stock price of the Ethan Group dropped to an all-time low, and the shareholders were cursing and condemning like crazy. After the Ethan family was sentenced in court, Ethan was pelted with rotten eggs all over his head and face. The era of the Ethan Group came to an end completely at this moment. And my sister, upon learning that the 30 million yuan she got from the demolition of her old house had all gone down the drain, fainted on the spot. When she woke up again, she was out of her mind. She didn't recognize anyone and didn't remember anything. When she was being sent to the mental hospital for treatment, she was still spitting at me. She was mumbling that I didn't deserve such a good life and that I had stolen her life. I sneered and said to Henry beside me, "Look, I think she knows everything." The gate of the mental hospital slowly closed, and that was the last time I saw my sister. I sent my sister's child to the welfare home. After all, he was a child with some blood relation to me, and I couldn't just ignore him completely. I funded the construction of a teaching building in the welfare home, hoping that the director would, considering this matter, be nicer to my nephew. A year later, a new listed company sprang up on the site of the former Ethan Group building. After the stock price of the Ethan Group hit rock bottom, I acquired it at a low price. I changed the company's name and then distributed dividends to the shareholders. Everyone started to invest, and the market was soon revitalized. At the celebration party on the day the company went public, Henry actually proposed to me. He took out a diamond ring and got down on one knee, asking me to marry him. Adhering to the principle that if I don't feel embarrassed, then the ones who do are others, I pushed him away directly and walked out alone. Henry quickly chased after me. "Elena, don't you want to? Or, did I do something wrong? Tell me, and I'll fix it." I stopped and looked at him very seriously, but then I couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. "What era is this? You're still using such a corny way to propose? It's so annoying." Henry laughed and pulled me into his arms. Henry and I didn't hold a wedding but got married by traveling after getting the marriage certificate. The atmosphere in Henry's family was great, and they didn't have the airs of the richest man in the Beijing circle at all. I heard that since both of my parents were gone, my mother-in-law loved me like her own daughter and indulged us in everything. Henry and I traveled all over the beautiful landscapes of our motherland and witnessed countless sunrises and sunsets. Suddenly, I remembered that in the previous life, I never dared to imagine that one day I could have money, a man, and such a wonderful life. I turned around, ready to say something to Henry, but he spoke first. "Elena, thank you. I'm so happy to have your company in this life." I slowly leaned my head on Henry's shoulder. "It should be me thanking you. Thank you for helping me find another possibility in my life. Thank you for accompanying me to grow up and leading me to the heights of life. Also, thank you for making me re-recognize myself and become who I am. From now on, with just the two of us in a house, having 3 meals a day and experiencing the 4 seasons, every day of this life is worth it."